The following presentation is brought to you as a courtesy from Forex Academy. This is part of our service, Psychology Trading. If you find it interesting and wish to be updated on new releases, please subscribe to our YouTube channel or join our community at forex.academy and receive all our services for free. Your like is also highly appreciated. Enjoy.
Hello, Forex Academy subscribers, and this is our second video in our psychology, trading, and methodology series. And today we're going to go over the coping with the fear and anxiety component of trading and how to get to a point where we can be aware of how we are beating the crap out of ourselves and causing us to lose money. So I'm going to use this scenario here. So let's say we're looking at this chart, and I'm going to pull up the euro pound chart. All right, and this is a Gann square of 90, and I know that in my style of trading, I use Gann's market geometry in all of my trading, and so I know that he had a rule, and that rule says that when price breaks an angle, it will move to test the next one. And we can see how this plays out frequently, that anytime an angle is broken, it will move to test the next. We actually see this better on like hourly time frames or hours kind of fast, but 4 hour, 1 hour charts. We can see that as an angle breaks, it will move to test the next one, and they act as natural areas of support and resistance. Anyways, I know that is my trade plan. Part of my trade plan is this method that I use. But regardless if you're using this one or whatever trading system or plan or method you're using, we all fall short at times, okay? So you've spent some time analyzing a chart, you quite a bit of time. You've been diligent looking at the monthly, weekly, daily, and now you're looking at the hourly here. You've already addressed where the historical points of resistance and support are. You've determined the best course is to go long or short. You're just waiting for the setup. And so some time goes by, and finally you have your setup. All right, so let's watch this play out here. So I want to start my market replay for this psychology example. Right, we'll start right here. And I'll hit play. And so what I'm looking at here, I already know what's going to happen because this is past price action, but I want to look to go short when price breaks this angle and has a candlestick that closes fully below it without having to test this line here, okay? And so as this is going, I see that we are getting conditions pretty close to where, there it is, right there. Okay, now, I would have taken a short on the close of this candlestick right here, because I know that once a candlestick closes below an angle like this on the hourly or the 4 hour, I have an extremely high positive expectancy of a trade to test down lower. All right, now let's watch this play out. Okay. And so I'm watching this. I'm watching the price action go, and I'm seeing that there are some signs that are making me a little anxious. So I'm as I'm watching this, I'm getting restless. Am I biting my fingernails? Are my knees shaking up and down? Do I drink a crap ton more coffee, which you shouldn't do? Am I getting up and pacing around and thinking that if I don't look at this, everything will be just fine? Okay, if I don't look at the screen, maybe I'll come back and it's okay. Or if I've determined that the best probability of something happening is going to play out in my favor, and if I just don't if I don't even put a stop loss here, then I'll be fine. Okay, now that's right when you need to stop what you're doing. Okay, you need to stop what you're doing, and you need to let those feelings take over, okay? All of that anxiety that's going on in your brain, all of all of those thoughts, all of those worries, you need to let them happen. And what I mean by let them happen, I mean that you're aware of them happening and you're going to let them happen anyways. Letting those kind of thoughts run amok and just happen naturally is a surefire way for you to run an autopilot and make a losing trade. So we want to let them take over, but don't react to them. Getting out of this trade before my stop or profit target is hit, it's just a way for me to get rid of the feelings I'm having right now. When we talked in the first video, we discussed that subconsciously and unconsciously, things that cause pain or loss or put us in a crisis, our response is to get away from it. We want to avoid a crisis. We want to avoid something that'll cause the feelings of loss. We want to avoid something that's going to cause pain. All right? We just, if it's going to hurt us, we don't want to go towards it. But if we're already doing an activity and then we start to get hurt, we start to feel that emotional pain, what do? We want to get out of it. It's like your hand is on a hot pot. What do? If you weren't able to avoid putting your hand on a hot surface, what do you do when it starts to burn? You don't even think about it. You just take your hand off. You just leave it. Same thing happens with trading, just a little slower. You're in a trade and it starts to go against you. And you start to panic because you're losing money on paper, but you still know that you could lose that money. And so instead of the logical thinking that should go on that happened before you put on the trade, where you said, okay, this is where I'm entering, this is how much risk I'm going to allow myself, and I'm going to let it play out till either a profit target is hit or that risk target is hit. But instead, you start to experience emotional pain, and what do? You leave it. You exit the trade. All right? So I would have exited the trade right up here. My stop is all the way up a little bit beyond this area. But right here is where I would have exited that trade. Big oops. Big oops. Because as we see this play out, well, we already know what happens because this happened already. And I'm using this scenario because I know I went through this moment. This was last month. I know that I had taken profit down, I think it was the 135.38 is what I took profit. And then I wanted to get back in short as we saw more weakness. And I remember as there was quite a rally here, I had gone short 3 contracts. And yeah, it gets a little unnerving. Even experienced traders get that. I've never believed a trader who said, "Oh yeah, the longer I trade, the less worried I get." I'd like to learn how to do that too. If you trade privately, your own money, your own account, I don't think there's a way that you don't feel a little anxiety and worry. But again, as we're watching this play out, if I had exited that trade, I would have come back down to even here. And this is often what people do too. You have a trade go against you, you hold on to it, and then you gamble by hanging on longer than you should. It returns to your break-even area, and you have a feeling of relief, and you just say to yourself, enough, I want to get out of this. And then you watch this happen, and prices continue to travel where you originally planned for them to go. Entry was here, stop was way up above, I got anxious, left the trade, and I watched it go all the way down. If that's what I didn't do that. I still do that every once in a while, sure. But we see this scenario play out all the time. Anybody can relate to this, where you have a trade, you want it to go short here, it didn't, you exited right when you shouldn't have, and you watched the trade go in the direction you wanted to. Why? If you think about this, it's kind of silly because you spend, and we spend, so well, I don't know how long you spend, but I usually spend my Sunday evenings doing a quick rundown. I have a process I go through. So I like to look at the monthly and the weekly charts, and I put a lot of prep time into my trading for the next week. Right, my monthly and weekly charts determine my intraday trading. So I spend a lot of time doing that, and that's time when you're planning. You're not worried about what an active trade is doing. You know, if you don't have a trade on the table, your analysis is free from bias and from influence of your emotions. You can plan it out without a lot of issues. And it's so weird that we spend so much time looking at what kind of trades we're going to take that it only takes a couple seconds of some price going in the opposite direction that we convince ourselves that those hours of study that we did on our own was wrong. It's weird, isn't it? How little self-confidence we have. And that's totally normal. That is totally normal. There are very few people who are so confident, even 50% of the time, that they get surprised when the trade is a loss. That's very rare. So all of these emotions that you feel as a new trader, veteran traders and experienced traders, we all still feel that. That still happens. All right? So as we're looking at this and it's playing out and how much we would have made and how much we took a loss on it and could have actually made money, this is a common scenario that we find every day when we're trading, or certainly if you're even swing trading, you'll find it frequently too, that we all fall victims to this. We all fall victims to letting our emotions take control. So we can stop this here. And so what is something that we can do? How do we address this? So one of the good things is to know yourself. I know that sounds cheesy, but you have to be aware of your thoughts. Give a voice to them. Let yourself feel those negative thoughts. Try to recognize as many as you can. It's not easy to do that, all right? Trading is not easy. It is one of the hardest things that you can do. I mean, just think about this for a second. There are brokers, they love people who are attorneys, doctors, rich people who made their money in careers outside of trading always think that because they made a lot of money in one area of their life that they can come to trading and it'll be easy. It doesn't work. I think they're called golden pigs because they have a lot of money to blow and they don't have the emotional maturity in the market to respond to the losses that they're going to get. So people who generally people who are very wealthy, they're pretty smart people. Self-made. I know where I live, most people who have a lot of money, they're self-made. They just work a lot. They've worked hard and they've built something from nothing. And they have a lot of money. And you think that, okay, I've done so good at this one area of my life, and now I want to trade because that is like the Mount Everest of careers as far as difficulty. And they go into it and they fail. All right? People who have found tremendous success, and are in the top 5 to 10 percentile of wealth in the world or in the country or wherever you live, they will fail at trading. And to be honest, I think that having a lot of success prior to going into trading is a huge disadvantage. If you're used to winning and being successful, the market is going to either eliminate you from the market quickly or it's going to humble you. Success prior to trading does not transfer very well. You are susceptible to your own ego. It's rough on new. I've had private clients who have lost oh my gosh, money I could only ever dream of. And I'm fascinated with how they've lost it. And there's no difference between the guy's account who lost, like $3 million over a 3 month period, or the guy who lost $300 over a 3 month period. They both reacted the same way to their money going away. The trick here, well, it's not really a trick. Well, it is a trick. You've got to know yourself, all right? And how you do that, you use some coping skills. And I know coping skills sound really cheesy. They're like a buzzword. And I worked in mental health for 12 years. When I hear the word coping skills, my skin crawls a little bit, because it's like a word that was overused for a lot of dumb reasons. But I couldn't think of anything else to say here, but because they are coping skills. So if you're feeling this anxiety and this crushing pressure of not knowing what's happening, or did I make the right choice in this trade, there are a lot of things you can do to kind of bring yourself back down to normal. One is notice your breathing. And I think my wife is a psychologist, and she's a PsyD, not a PhD. She's a legit Yoda mind reader. It's not fair being married to a psychologist, because I don't know if I'm actually doing things that are what I want to do, or if I've been kind of guided into doing them. Anyways, I think some of these activities are what they call mindfulness activities. So notice your breathing. Sense your breathing. Take deep belly breaths. And what I mean by belly breaths, if you're a musician, if you've ever played an instrument, I used to play the trombone, baritone, euphonium, and tuba. And diaphragm breathing is what we always stressed as musicians, is you take deep breaths all the way down into your stomach. Diaphragm breathing. If you're breathing with your chest, only just your lungs, you're taking these shallow, quick breaths, and just your physiological response to that kind of breathing is to have kind of an anxious response, because you're never getting rid of the air that you breathe in, and you're not getting enough. So deep belly breaths are naturally calming. Another thing that you can do is notice what you're doing and tune into your senses, okay? I know this sounds kind of silly too, but just kind of after you take that deep breath, notice the textures on the walls, or the color of the lights, sounds, smells. If you're snacking on something, what are the sensations of the food you're snacking or eating on? It really helps detach you from the trade that is causing you some panic at the moment. All right? Don't feel that you need to always be trading or doing something too. And this kind of falls into line with the, recognize that your thoughts are simply thoughts. You don't need to believe them or react to them. All right? Just because your trade is active and it's losing, you don't think that you have to participate in it any more than you already have. You can get caught up in doing all sorts of the wrong things in your thinking when you are in a losing trade. Or I should stop saying losing trade, because all trades have some, periods when they're going to move against you. Nobody ever executes 100% perfect trades where the minute you enter, you're always in profit. That doesn't exist. Maybe it does. I just never met anybody that's like that. Notice also when you tend to zone out. All right? Is there a time of day that you zone out? Is it a certain amount of time when you're trading that you tend to kind of fade off into not thinking about it anymore? Because that can be a form of defense, psychological defense, where you let's say you're so accustomed to feeling this anxiety when you're trading that once you have a trade on, instead of like going into panic mode, you've gone into total indifference, which is even more dangerous, where you take the trade, you put it on, and you don't even care about it anymore. You just think, okay, I'm going to go do something else, and I'll check back later, and I will let the panic happen when I know that my account is about to be margin called. So notice when you tend to zone out, or if you do zone out. Notice also your thoughts and that self-talk. Think about how you're judging yourself and take note of how much you probably beat yourself up with just thoughts. You know, it's very, there are few people who are more susceptible to the anxiety and fear of trading than people who have a family. Because it's one thing to be single and trading and lose money that only affects you. It's worse if you have a spouse and children. Because you are no longer losing money that's just going to affect you. It's going to affect them. And that adds on so much pressure that it's almost impossible for you not to say, I suck as a husband. I'm failing as a father. Why am I'm such an idiot? Why did I take this trade? I'm speaking from personal experience because I have gone through that before. I've went through significant personal pain and suffering financially and emotionally before I became a profitable trader. I don't say I'm a successful trader. I don't know what that is. I just know that at some point I realized what I was doing wrong. I changed it, and I got out from being a total loser trader and somebody who was unprofitable to somebody who was consistently profitable. Profitable traders are the ones who stick around. And honestly, I don't think you get to be a good trader without a lot of personal suffering financially and emotionally. Trading is not easy, and it was never intended to be easy, and I'm not going to lie to you and tell you that it is easy. It is very difficult to trade. It is very hard on you. All right, we're going to wrap up this video here pretty shortly, and some of the other skills that we're going to get into here, they're going to be more in depth, but this is a good initial starting point on discussing the coping skills, getting to know yourself, and identifying how you may be thinking in a trade, because this will set us up for the next video. Hope you enjoyed this one, and I look forward to talking to you in our next one.